Hi, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new here, hi, hello, thanks for stopping by. My name is Cassidy, and I am writing a fantasy novel duology about a woman who's been brainwashed and is really just rediscovering her pivotal role in this world. If that interests you, feel free to follow along. It is Wednesday, my dudes. You know what that means over here is that it is Wordy Writer Wednesday, which means just getting some words down on the page. Not talking about research, any of that stuff. This is like full on just putting words into the chapter, finishing a chapter, whatever it is, actually in the manuscript, not the research side. And typically my rule of thumb that I've been rolling with this Wordy Writer Wednesday is that it's a minimum of 1 hour. Fit it in where you can. If you break it up, that's fine. But minimum of 1 hour and just see what you can do with it. I ended up doing that today. I did that on my lunch break because I knew I was going to spend the evening with you guys talking about the next steps of this novel to get you up to speed. Over the weekend, I cranked out some writing time and really finished Act 1. So we are done with Act 1. We are now officially in Act 2, and I feel overwhelmed. I have been kind of playing around the last day or two, mostly Monday, of the big plot points that I'm hitting, or the POIs or points of interest for Act 2 as a whole. And I've been following the Save the Cat beat sheet and stuff, and it still feels just overwhelming. I have two paths of the way I want the story to potentially go, and I can't decide between the two. So I decided I needed to just take a step back from that, because I know what the first half of Act 2 is going to be. It's just that second half that leads into obviously the third act of what to do in terms of the story. So, and we'll get a little bit more into that, but I wanted to really just take today and really just prep for Act 2. I'm talking about doing the research aspects. I'm talking about getting my character sheets, all my additional side characters and characters that are going to be in the story that are going to be cropping up in Act 2, and just getting them into my research folder of Scrivener, where it is getting that kind of fleshed out a little bit more. As you might see over here, this is my hot mess of a pile of planning for Act 2. Typically this is my catch-all writing journal of plot points for chapters, and maybe I'm writing out said chapter by hand, and then typing it into the computer later, whatever it is. I have floating sheets in here too, and my tentative map design as well. And then I have this notebook for when I was working on the plot points of the Act 2. But as I said, we're not going to really talk on that today. I feel like I need to just stew on it a little bit more. So maybe in the next video, we can kind of talk about that a little bit more. I can brainstorm with you guys a little bit more, but I figured let's work on something that feels a little bit more concrete, because again, as I'm saying, I'm feeling very overwhelmed that so many things are going to be happening here in Act 2, and things are really going to start ramping up. We're going to have a lot more characters coming in, and I need to kind of chip away at my little Act 2 to-do list, so to speak. And I figured just getting the characters that I already know I want to be in it in my Scrivener research folder, and getting those just getting those character sheets or those character cards all good to go. So that's kind of what I'm thinking I'm going to do today. And I thought I'd bring you guys along and show you kind of what that's all about. Probably circle back to the Act 2 plot points. I am partway through my first chapter of Act 2 because I was rolling when I last wrote through Act 1, and I was like, let me just keep going, and I stopped at a really good spot. And today I kind of chipped away a little bit more at it during my hour lunch break. But I really realistically think I'm going to just spend the rest of this week or like the next few days just really trying to figure out the direction I want things to go. But if I'm feeling righty, then I will just continue this first half, because I do know the first act is going to be relatively the same either route I go with. So I feel pretty comfortable just progressing with that if I'm feeling like I want to write. But the goal is to just focus on getting Act 2 figured out, and so I can go in with a game plan. So that is my general overarching way of addressing my overwhelming feelings for Act 2, because this is part of I'm trying to be more of a plotter moment, and just really try to plot a lot of the story. But again, coming into this book, I have a very general story arch that I'm like wanting, like the general idea of the story as a whole, not so much the specifics. And now that we're kind of into like the meat and potatoes of the story, I kind of need to figure out some of those things, and really just kind of leaning on the plotting aspect right now, where I can get kind of more of those big picture ideas figured out, those points of interest that I want to hit and how to connect those dots. And then just remaining slightly pantsy when I'm writing the actual chapters. Kind of just taking a moment of reflection of my experience with Act 1, I have really come to appreciate creating a bullet point outline of how I want a chapter to go. So like taking, like if I'm on chapter, let's say like 13, right? Like I went through it and I had like the things I wanted to talk about and like the general just description. If there's like an area that's new, like I'll have kind of a general description already plotted out. And then I take that as a guide, and when I start writing out the chapter, it's actually been really working honestly really well, in terms of like keeping me on track, but I'm also pantsing and letting things happen and unfold naturally as it comes up, as I'm writing out that chapter. So very much plantser right now, and I've really been liking it because I haven't really hit any like writer's block or anything like that, which is great. Love that. But I need to have a plan. And so that's kind of where I wanted to take today, this video, this afternoon, this evening with you guys, and kind of figuring out the side characters. I have in my phone like a notes app the notes app. In my phone, in the notes app, I have a page that's dedicated to my book notes, where it's like if inspiration strikes, I just jot it down, and maybe I'll just show you guys. I'll just show you guys a brief snippet. So I've actually organized it. And this was something I was like maybe going to touch on later on in another video, where I kind of talk a little bit more in depth of the tools and the things that I use to collect all of my ideas as the story unfolds and inspiration strikes. This is like obviously my book notes app, and I have it categorized like where I have like some stuff just thrown up at the top, and then I have for example, how I want to end book 1. I had a really good idea that just kind of hit me when I was driving to training the other day, so I just jotted that down. Again, that's kind of dependent on which direction I decide to take for the first book and which path, I guess. And then I have like the world building name ideas. I have things to add or consider, which is like my catch-all of like things I've added during the pantsing episodes that I'm like, I know needs to have a full circle moment, which will probably be added more so in the second draft, making sure things are congruent, things are actually consistent, and the thread continues along the story, throughout the story. So that's kind of the things I just throw together. And then I have like the general theme of like the black fever that happens in this book, and just kind of like the areas that are affected, what happens, what is it, what's kind of the lore behind it. And then I have like a potential idea section where I'm just random things that I'm like, ooh, that seems kind of cool, maybe. Name of like locations too. And then I also have like Also the motivations for the characters, the arcs for the characters, the names of the characters, and then I have just extra section where it just is like extra names that I'm like, that's kind of cool, but I don't have a home for them. Maybe if something crops up or whatever, they didn't work with the ones that I have already planned out. So kind of have that tentatively just thrown down there where I'm like, I don't want to forget. And then I also have a section of just quotes that I felt like were like a cool vibe and just like a source of inspiration too, where I'm like, yeah, like I want someone to sound similar to this or whatever. So that's in a nutshell my book notes app. Like it is so long. And this is probably my source of my most up-to-date area of everything, because that's the thing I'm mostly changing often and updating, and will continue to be like my go-to guide when I'm on the run. And then I'll translate it and move it over as needed or as things unfold. So yes, that is in a nutshell everything that's going on. So really, let's just get into just creating some character cards and filling out some of those blanks and the things that I have in my notes app about these characters and their relationships with each other. And let's throw it all together and kind of make it pretty. So come with me while we get this prep work for Act 2 underway. Let's go. Hi, welcome back. I couldn't tell you how much longer it's been, to be honest, but I feel like I got to a pretty good stopping point. Yeah, don't mind the background of this. It's kind of a hot mess, and I'm still trying to figure out how to fix it. It was back when I was like messing around when I first got Scrivener, and I haven't been able to fix it. So just ignore the background, but I got a lot of my characters a little bit more fleshed out. I added a few more minor characters that will probably have like a brief period in this first book, but might be more relevant in the second book. And I do have like one more character that I'm like, I have them brewing in the back of my mind, but I'm not sure if they're going to be in the story yet or not. That's kind of a pantser side that we'll kind of wait and see when we get to a certain point in this story or a certain area of the story. But I'm very happy. So some of the things that I kind of touched on for these characters is a lot of it is like their names or their current like jobs or position, because some of these characters have multiple names. Or sometimes it's just like obviously their name is exactly what they are, so it's more of like what's their position, and then obviously their motivation, their arc as well, if they do have one. Like some of those minor characters, they're not gonna have one. It's just gonna be very much just exactly who they are. Also relationships, so like how are they interacting with certain key characters and things like that, and like what's that looking like, especially like that relationship arcs if there are any. And then some of these I went as far as having like a storyline section where it's more of just like their backstory, essentially, of like bullet points of like, this is, you know, where they started, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. So it kind of just like is a way to justify their motivation that may or may not get explained in the story, TBD, but it's just a way to better understand where this person or character is coming from in terms of their approach and their viewpoint of the world and how they interact with others. So yeah, it's good. I added a couple of my creatures, if you will, as well, thrown in there. And you know, a lot of these pictures are just the ones that I could find by Pinterest that are as close as possible to what I have in mind, but everything is like with a grain of salt from what you can see. Like it's all not perfect, and obviously they'll be displayed probably a little bit different in the story, or some of them I couldn't even find really anything that would remotely match or resemble what I have for that thing. So for example, one of the creatures, I'm like, I've tried searching my Pinterest and trying to like get something to be built out for that, or like something close to it, but there was nothing. So all I can tell you is that now my Pinterest like For You page and like my home page is gonna be so fucked now, so fucked, based on my search history and like for doing all of the, especially the creatures, so everything's like a little bit more spooky. But yeah, so I'm very happy with it. I have this one character that I don't know what her name's gonna be just yet. Also, sorry for the poor lighting. It's a little bit moody and rainy today, so it is what it is. But yeah, so happy with where it is. Got a lot of my notes, if not all of them, I'm pretty sure, from my phone moved over into the character cards. Like a lot of the arcs and the motivations and stuff like that. So that's been all moved over, which is nice. Now, mind you, I don't erase them from my notes app once I transfer them over. I just keep them, and that way it's like I can remember exactly what they are. So in case I like, oh, what did I put for so and so? I can look and see, or like, did I put that down? Yes, I did. So that way I can always change it later. But anyways, so yeah, I feel better. I feel better after working on these characters a little bit more and kind of getting like faces to names, motivations kind of fleshed out, some of their back history and their back storyline, as well, and also like the relationship dynamics and kind of what I have generally in mind. But some of the certain relationships I'm kind of keeping open, where it's like I have a general idea of what I probably want to do, but like we're gonna see what they do too when it comes to certain points in the story. So yeah, that is it. So Project Nameless is coming along quite nicely. And I don't remember if I mentioned that earlier, but yeah, Project Nameless is what this is affectionately known as. But she coming along slowly but surely. I again have to figure out more of like the story part of it. I basically choosing between two paths of how I want to do it. It's basically the storyline's going to happen either way. It's just, do I have it happen in book one, or do I stretch it out across 2 books? That's really what I'm trying to decide at this point. Because originally I had it planned out across 2 books in terms of this certain story plot. But I'm going back and forth. I really don't know what I want to do. So TBD on that. And yeah, so that's all she wrote. If you've enjoyed what are seeing and are want to continue to follow along, please feel free to like and subscribe. And yeah, if you have any tips and tricks on how to just get Act 2 put together, or just navigating like the sheer volume that it's about to happen, you know, the meat and potatoes of the story, like, please let me know. Send me wisdom, send me good vibes as well. But otherwise, I will catch y'all in the next one. And I so appreciate you guys for taking time out of your day to listen to me talk about my story. Also, just being my support people. Why I'm kind of internally melting down a little bit, but we are still going to continue to cruise forward. So, appreciate you being here. Thank you. Thank you. And again, like and subscribe if you aren't already. And I hope to see y'all in the next one. Love you. See you. Bye.